Welcome to the Tea with Martha, where we spill the tea on the untold truths and real struggles of entrepreneurship. I'm Martha Mechtel, a fellow business owner who's learned the ins and outs of business the hard way. Get ready for unfiltered discussions on the highs, lows, and messy realities of entrepreneurship. It's time to spill the tea and vent it out with us. Good morning and welcome to the tea. Today, my guest is Aleta. It's so funny how our circles overlap and how it is where sometimes you stop talking and then all of a sudden you reconnect. But Aleta is a mentor of mine, colleague, and we've done a little business in the past as well. So, Aleta, welcome, and
Thank you.
To get started. Tell us
All
about
right.
yourself.
Yeah, so owned my childcare centers for 21 years, sold them. It was 2 years in December, so it was a good thing that I sold to someone that I specifically was able to pick. He's a big mentor of mine and a really good friend, so that was easy. It's like picking out the really childcare owner for your own child. Like that was my baby, and I found the right person, and I was very fortunate, feel very blessed. Um, and which then, helped me continue to operate my substitute teacher placement company and really coach and mentor other small businesses. So I've transitioned out of being an owner of a childcare center and really going all in with solving one of the biggest challenges out there right now. It's staffing. So our subs are doing very well, and we have many owners across the nation, and helping them and partnering them grow their own sub companies so they can solve their staffing challenges as well. Um, and because I love my brokers and I love Kathy Ligon, I work with her as well. And I run masterminds for childcare owners and help coach and train. And I just want everyone to not have to reinvent the wheel and not go through the mistakes that I made. And I love
What?
assisting
You
and
had
partnering with
mistakes?
people. Oh, have I had mistakes? Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
that is awesome.
I've made so many mistakes that I feel like I've perfected a lot of areas. So,
Well,
yeah.
I just knowing you and like knowing your story and being in the same industry, it's just lovely not only to watch you, but I think I love when people have, you have you you have proof to show for, right? It's so
Thank you.
important in my opinion when like that's just always been a thing for me when I pick mentors and people that I'm going to invest, that one, they understand where I'm coming from because they've done it, and they've found success. And like you said, you've learned a thing or two.
Yes.
And I think there's such power in accepting we don't know everything and we need help. And if and when I'm going to decide to do that, I want to go with someone who has maybe been a little bit down the road farther than
Right.
where I'm at. And so thank you for the work you do. I you
You're
you
welcome.
you always inspire so many, and me personally. So
Thank you. Thank
this is
you.
wonderful to get to pick your brain and spill the tea with us. I'm so excited.
Well, on that note, we don't know everything, right? So when we surround ourselves with amazing people and continue to keep in touch and have the communication, that's the important thing is to follow the people that lead you well. Make sure that you're not always the biggest one in the room, and just be actively a part of everything that's going on that can help you move in the right direction. I am a strong believer in leadership and masterminds, and I've been in business 24 years now, and I don't think there's been 1 year since my 7th year of being in business when I thought my whole world was going to crash and I found a good group of people. Um, I have not enrolled in a mastermind class or a leadership series whether it be business led, women business owners, childcare. I grow out of them quickly because I feel
Mhm.
like I learn a lot, and then, but I want to learn more. And I feel like I need to up level and up level and up level, but always surround yourself with amazing people and amazing things will come.
Yeah, same, same. I think it's a thing about, people that are go-getters, and we often throw ourselves and figure it out as we go, right? Because your
Yes.
ideas seem great at the time, and then you were like, "Oh, I didn't consider this, and I didn't do this, and I should have asked this." But we figure it out, and to your point of I've never it's been so long since you have it not invested. It was for me the same thing. I remember I was about to burn out, and my husband was like, "You need to find help because this isn't good for anyone, and we
Yes.
all need you, and you need to figure out how we're going to, how you're going to deal with this because now we're knees deep into this situation, right?" And
Yes.
it was when I remember thinking that at that point I had two centers. I had been in business on my own outside of my home for about 5 years, and I was just in over my head. And I think that was the hardest thing for me. The hardest thing was getting the first center, figuring things out. But then that second center, when I was trying to be, almost two directors, because I had directors, but the, anyway, um, it was truly that make or break where I thought, I can't even afford to invest, but I couldn't not afford to invest in. At the time it was very industry specific for me
Mhm.
because it was like I'm in the middle of this and I need to figure out, but there has to be better systems, there has to be better ways. And when I did it, it was like this aha of why did I wait even 5 years?
Yes.
I wish I would have known years ago, and how I would have accelerated that success that later I found. I felt like 6 or 7 years into it, and I could have had it so much earlier. So I love
Yeah,
that every stage requires a different skill set and a different maybe mentorship. And sometimes I feel the same. I outgrow, or I'm like, okay, can we move on? Like I feel like we've already talked about this, or
yes.
I thought I thought I didn't know as much as I do. And so I think what's
Yeah,
the next thing, and but it's continual because I still feel like there's so much I don't know and I want to absorb
for
it all.
sure. Yep. I'm still in some pretty big groups. I feel like you're telling my story. Exactly. Like laying on my living room floor crying because I opened my second center and it's a recession and I don't know what I'm going to do. And I'm a kindergarten teacher and I don't know how to run a business. And oh, there's this course I can take for $297. I can't afford $297. I look back and like, thank God I could afford $297 at that
No,
time
I
because I learned a lot. Right. So, it's funny that you and I share that story because I'm sure hundreds of people share the same story, right? So, uh,
absolutely.
yeah,
It's so
yeah,
important to invest. So tell us about, kind of you built a childcare company, you built kind of I don't know if you would consider it a supplemental company, but a sister company,
yes, yes,
and which is how you and I got to working together a few years ago.
yes,
And I know you do business consulting. So kind of walk us through that process and how you evolved and how
sure.
what was your biggest
What's happening?
kind of
Yeah.
yeah.
So, I am a firm believer in goals, right? Everybody says, let's have dreams, and dreams are not goals. You can have your dreams, but you have to set goals in order to accomplish. So, I always knew when I was going to exit my company, but I didn't know exactly how, right? So, here I sat and I would write the number that I always thought I would have to sell my company. And I wrote that number everywhere. It was on vision boards, it was everywhere. I wrote the year and the number. So I worked really hard at all my processes and procedures were in place. I surrounded myself with a great leadership team. I pulled myself out of the company so people did not rely on me or my face as the company, and really got to know my team and trusted my team so that I knew when I exited, I could exit strong and leave whoever purchased me in good hands. It was so smooth. I worked with Hinge Advisors, and it was amazing how they just wrap their arms around you and make sure that you get the best for what you want. I fought for what I wanted because I wanted that number that I was writing down. And I did everything I could to ensure that my company was worth that number. And it was just the process. And when I exited out of that company, it wasn't time for me to retire. It really wasn't. I had so much more to give, and I just really wanted to be a strong mentor and a business coach to anyone that needed any help. And I was able to do that quickly. I sold in December, and by April, I rebranded myself. So I've been coaching. I had to stop. People are on a wait list. But and I owe a lot of that to Kathy Ligon because I'm doing mastermind groups, and then from there, I have had a lot of interest, plus everyone else I've been working with over the years. But truly, my substitute teacher placement company, I have now a really great leadership team. I had a great leadership team, but it was small. It was only 1.5 people. Now I have 6 people. And so that's important to me. It's not about how do I do this? How do I do this? How do I do this? But it's all of your who's that you put in place.
Mhm.
So you never have a question. So now I have this amazing leadership team that's running this company, and I couldn't be more proud of them. We're hitting numbers that I never thought this company would hit. It's close to what my childcare centers, all of them put together, are doing. And so to me, that's really powerful. And we get to help
Mhm.
these
Yes.
struggling directors and owners in Minnesota fill their classrooms because they get to have our teachers in there. And it's amazing. It's amazing what we can do. And then the fact that we even branch out further into the nation, and people are opening their own, we get to partner with these people that open their own, and they get to solve those staffing challenges as well. It's just a great feeling. And I get to spend time with people who need help in their companies. It's not only childcare center owners or leaders, it's women business owners. So I get to help with organizational companies and realtors, and I have fitness instructors, and you know, um, health and wellness, and a mental wellness coach. It's just so fun to dive deep into these companies and help and watch all my little ducklings, I call them, succeed.
Yes.
So it's fun.
It's like seeing the kids back in the day, you know? I mean, I see some of my students and I'm like, "How are you graduating? I remember when you came in as an infant," you know? You
Yes,
just and
yes,
you see them and I get teary-eyed when I
yeah.
realize, seeing them flourish and accomplish these little milestones in their life that are actually huge. So, I'm
Well, the
sure it
impact you had, right? I mean, you see these successful children that you've grown, and I see these successful children and business
eh,
owners and the people I
yes.
work with. It just fills my whole
Yes.
heart
It's
so
your
much.
that's your teacher heart right there. That's when
Yes.
you know that's
Yes.
just like at the core who we are is you
Yes.
wanna see people win and succeed, and
Yes.
it's just a beautiful thing. What a privilege it is, right? To be able to, along the way as you've grown, kind of lift people up into, other levels as well. What a That's awesome. Hats off to you. Like I said,
Thank
I
you.
have always I just there is there is this thing that I was asked recently, who do you look up to? Write down names of people you look up to in all areas, which was really hard because I have amazing people in my life and family and so it was really hard when I thought, who is the one person that I could like trade with, right? And so it made me think, and I was in a room full of women. It was in a mastermind,
Okay.
and I realized, and all of us, we all got up, and these are high performing, 8, 9, 10 figure earners. I mean, this
Yeah.
this room was filled with talk about
Big.
being, yeah, big room. And so we all had this kind of epiphany of there is not a lot of people I would trade with. I mean, I you might admire one thing in a family member or a
Right.
friend or a mentor or a colleague, but like all areas of life. And so I think one of the things I love about you, Alita, and is that you've been able to raise a family, you have beautiful children and a marriage, and you exited, and like I think that multifaceted success is something that is so needed in life because I don't know about you. I can be a workaholic. Like I have to force myself to stop. And so if
Boundaries.
I
Yep.
didn't have a family, I would have way more success probably, right? Like because I could just work and work and I have all these crazy every day I have a new business idea. So
Yes. The
but
visionary in us.
yes, it's the visionary. But at the same time, like, what does it matter how much success you have
Right.
if if you don't have a family that loves you or is waiting for you or wants to hang out with you? Like to me,
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing is like my kids are like, "What are we doing this weekend?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, my 17 and 15-year-olds still they want to know
I
what's
know.
happening." And I love that and I don't ever want that to stop. And what do I need to do more? Which actually in my season has been like, I need to do less because I feel like I have
Right.
a sliver of window. We were talking about college kids
Mhm.
in that season. But anyway, I digress. It's that
No. Yeah.
finding that success in seasons too. There's seasons where you have to drive and there's seasons where it's like, okay, I'm gonna let things work on their own because I've set up the systems and my teams and when or I might need to step in a little here and there, but like I'm in that season of I need to be more present at home and the time is limited, and then I'm sure when the kids are gone I'm going to be like, okay, let's go all in, or let's go crazy with this new idea. But
Yeah.
I think it's having that drive, but knowing how to balance, finding success in other areas, whether that be contribution, whether that be
Yes.
whatever that is for it could look different for people, but I just love and admire that you have all these areas that you have found success, and I think that is the true
Thank you.
kind of indicator of
Mm.
of a successful woman, in my
Thank
opinion.
you.
So
Thank you.
keep going.
I've
Keep
learned a
showing us
lot.
how to do it.
I've learned a lot through all of my mistakes. I mean, truly, I owe it to some of the stronger leaders in our early education field, and
Mhm.
it truly is who you surround yourself with. Good examples,
Absolutely.
and be careful because some of the people out there may look like things are going
Mhm.
really well, and you start doing and following and like, yeah, 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 let's do this. And in fact, it's not the right direction really, and
Mhm.
it's just kind of a facade on the outside, and it's not really what they're doing or how things are going. So, really make sure you know the people and the trust is there. But I truly am blessed with who I was able to choose as a mentor or people to guide me in the right direction and surround myself with. I've had many, many great people. And in the childcare industry and out right now, I'm in a really great coaching mastermind leadership program that doesn't have childcare in it. And I'm learning all kinds of amazing things. I've been in it for 2 years. Um, I think at the end of this year, I'll move on to a bigger group. But how, gosh, what I have learned, it really taught me how to go back to basics. And I think a lot of us are so spiraling because there's so much going on in the world right now. And we forget what made us successful to begin with.
Mhm.
And this group that I'm in right now really brought me back and said, okay, let's just start from the beginning. And I keep telling everybody it feels like I'm having a grand reopening, even though I've been open for 11 years. I feel like this is like my grand reopening. I'm going back to basics,
Mm.
putting really great processes in place, even though I already have everything in place. But let's fine tune it. Let's, update. Let's move on. Let's move
Mhm.
forward. Let's strengthen the team. Let's strengthen how we're doing business. Let's do less, more. And
Mhm.
so it's really taught me how to slow down go deep instead of wide and really focus on the importance of running a really quality, successful company. And with that, I think when I sold my childcare centers, I was so ready to grow. Like I was hungry for success. And I just grew so quickly. I mean, we grew very fast because I didn't put my 100% of my energy into that company, right? Or any of those companies. And so once I had more time on my hands and I went back to basics and I really dove in, I mean, it was the first year, I think it was over 160% increase from the year before. And so it was just like, but we were growing messy, right? So we didn't have the people in place. We didn't have the leadership team. So it was like, woo, grow, 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 but woo, we got to slow down because we're
Mhm.
getting a little bit too big too fast. So,
Yeah.
I'm really learning again what it felt like 20 years ago when I opened my first childcare center, struggling, laying on the floor crying. No, I'm not doing that now, but I'm definitely going back to, you know what? Rely on the systems, rely on the processes, rely on people. You can't grow without a fantastic team. So
Mhm.
we're doing amazing things, and which then my team takes care of my companies. So then I get to do things like this and spend time with you.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so it's fun.
So, can you tell us about a time, whether it was back with your childcare company or your current substitute placement company, maybe of a, just a really difficult time, how you overcame that? I mean, I think there is this idea. I mean, like we were talking about the successes and the seasons, but really just a time that you thought maybe you wouldn't make it over this mountain.
Yeah. And I hate talking about that C word, but COVID for a substitute teacher placement company was really hard. I know for my
Mhm.
childcare centers, it was hard. We had a plan. Every week we met with my mentors and the people I surrounded myself with so we could work on policies and procedures. So I knew my childcare center would be successful. However, we were still able to operate, as a childcare center. As a sub
Mhm.
company, we were not. I mean, it went
Mhm.
from having 50 subs to 1,000 hours a week of placement hours to zero, like overnight, zero, because we couldn't put the same sub in the same school in a different classroom or a different school. Like this is all about subbing.
Mhm.
You're going all over the place wherever you're needed, your placement is. So it went zero for 6 months. Now, luckily, I have always been a stasher with money. So I stash my cash all the time. And I make sure that my companies always have a strong savings account that will pull us through. So I told everyone I was going to employ them all. I kept all of my employees for my subs. I had happy hours, I had lunch and learns, I had bingo, I had treasure hunts. I would send them packages, we'd get on Zoom. Like I was engaging my employees every week, every day, everything that it took. And um, it was a scary time because I really thought that company was gonna close. Like, that was I never said my company's closing, and I'm one that says, if you put something out into the universe, it's gonna happen. Like, don't sit here and say, "Well, my company's closing, my company's closing." I was like, "I'm gonna do everything in my power to pay my people, to make sure they get the minimum of what average they were working, to make sure that we can get them to continue." Now, some were scared, some didn't know. We all were scared, right, during that time. But when I look at my numbers, because I have a dashboard that says this is what we placed last year, this is what we placed this year, this is, all the growth, every payroll I document, zero, 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 zero
Mhm.
placement, zero placement. It was chiseling away at me. And I'm a strong person, and I just knew that if I was going to continue with this company, I had to really be thinking out of the box. So when I was able to um, not only use my own childcare center, but choose the amount of childcare centers that I could to just strictly place my subs in, it started working. And the more communication I had with childcare centers, the more they started trusting that I was doing the right thing and following the rules and being safe and, proving that I was being safe. And these are all the steps. And I truly believe that if I didn't spend all that time communicating and building strong relationships with not only my partner centers that were contracted with us, keeping in contact with them, sending them gifts, sending them, cards,
Mhm.
handwritten, everything. Like, don't forget about us. We're still here. I still have subs. If you need anything, let us know. Just calling and checking in to see how they were doing because it was hard. But then my numbers started going up and my numbers started going up. I'm like, yes. And then we actually, at the end, hit almost where we wanted to go, where we set our goals. And I was like, with 6 months of zero. And then all of a sudden, we ramped it up so much that these centers really believed in us that much to use more subs. And I was hiring some teachers that didn't go back into their childcare centers or their childcare centers closed, unfortunately. And then I had an influx of subs. So I was
Mhm.
like, okay, this is a sign that I'm doing what I need to do and continue doing this in a strong, compassionate, communicative way that will make us successful. So, like, I did not run out of my savings, which was another blessing, but I was able to actually use some of that savings and bonus people based because I couldn't get the grants that everybody else was getting, like my childcare center. I was all alone, like I was my own thing. I could have gotten loans, but I didn't need a loan. I wanted to save that money for people who really needed it. But like I just kind of, my accountant and I created a little document that stated these are all the hours that you missed during COVID. These are all the hours that you showed up after COVID. I am so grateful for you. This is your thank you for working through this with us and trusting us bonus. And so it calculated the hours that they missed, the hours that they put in after COVID, and gave this bonus because I said, okay, this is the amount of money I have left and I want to spend it on my team because they worked their butt off to continue to be successful and grow our company through that really hard, challenging time. And they didn't have to trust me, right? They know I didn't know what I was doing, and we just kind
Mhm.
of made it work. But so grateful, and we came out on top. And man, I
Ooh.
never thought I was gonna have another hour place after that. No, it was. I wasn't gonna give up though. No way. I was not gonna give up.
What a
Yeah.
great story. I mean, that kind of goes to those basic principles of
Yes.
really putting yourself putting your money where your mouth is, right? When we say we care about our staff, we care about the well-being, we care about, we are a family. Really, the hard times are when the rubber meets the road. And what a beautiful
Yes.
story of, hey, I sowed the seed of I'm trusting and I'm hoping and I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to do right by my people. And then you essentially doubled in 6 months because you had
Yeah.
6 months of no revenue, and then all of a sudden you surpassed
Boom.
your goals. So what a
Yes.
beautiful thing in a half amount of time.
Yeah, it was I know. It was scary for all of us. I mean, any
Yeah.
business, right? But I knew I built like one of the best teams in my childcare I could have had at that time walking through that scary situation. So I let them take care of everything. The grants, the money, the unemployment, the let's get everybody back. Let's have this campaign, let's have that campaign, get on the call with each other, track your numbers every day. How many children do you have? They were going above and beyond to make sure that that childcare, all four centers, going from 5 to 600 children a day in a childcare center down to 36 a day is scary, like for everyone. Like, do we show up? Do we not show up? How do we
Oh,
bring
yeah.
these kids on? But I trusted my leadership team to do the best. Nobody had the right or wrong answer. We just were doing it, and
Mhm.
but this sub company was a whole different beast. And yeah, we came out
It
on
was
top.
It was tough times. I can't even believe it's been, nearly 4 years. We were
I
talking about
know.
this, like, I'm like, "Oh, this was 2 years ago," and somebody was like,
No.
that was not 2 years ago. This was
Yeah.
4 years ago."
Yeah.
And how we all dealt with things, and every state was so different, and I remember
Yes.
getting on calls with people, I'm like, "What is happening over there?" Just
Yeah.
Arizona. We're in Arizona, and my centers at the time, I had 3 centers. We have now 6 centers,
Okay.
but my 3 centers at the time, 1 I had just opened, and so we went from, like, 100 kids to I think it was 13. That was the center, and then one of my centers, everybody I think we lost 3 kids. They were like, "Take my kid, I need to go to work." And so it was so I remember just thinking, and I had to lay off people, and it was this time of I remember crying. That was the time. This was before anything was announced and any, support or anything that was gonna come down the pike. It was, "What do I need to do to survive this?" Because it could be a
Right.
year, it could be 2. Like, I didn't even know, nobody knew what was happening.
Right.
And just being talk about really leaning into your intuition and just knowing
Yes.
there's things you have to be decisive and you have to act quickly. Nobody has the answer, and
No.
it's your name that you signed away, and you have to put on the hat of, "Okay, what is needed today? Tomorrow I'll
Yes.
deal with tomorrow, but what is needed today for the greater good, for the people that, that I have, who are my key players, who are the
Yes.
people that, have been in this, who have been loyal, who have there's so much to it when you're building a team, but also in the hard times, like who shows up for you, and how do we as business owners uh, acknowledge that, appreciate that, and really just pay it back. There's times where it could be quick, and there's times where, hey guys, you know what? Let's hold on for this ride, but I know we're gonna make it, and
Yes.
when we
Yes.
do, hey, let's all celebrate together, and we're
Yes. Opened your eyes a lot. I think, going through an experience like this, I look back, I learned a lot, number one. Number two, it made me realize what is important in
Mhm.
your company and your people. And number three, I think you don't have to do big things to be successful. I mean, the smallest little things moving forward. I think, it's like you pack all this stuff into a business, right? And we're doing all this crazy stuff and all this fun stuff, and this is how we're running our business. And then a major catastrophe happens like this. And then you pick out and you get to pick and choose the most important things on what are the key components of really running a successful company. And that's what you use moving forward, and leave all that other silly baggage
Mhm.
behind. And this important piece that you get to move forward with in your companies, that's the building blocks of the strength that you have moving forward. And that's what that taught me. Like, leave the everything you don't need to be doing behind, and let's take these key success players, these key success processes, these key successful things that are making us be really a great, well-rounded company right now. Let's just take that and keep going with it, because back to basics, like,
Yes.
this is what is making us successful. So I got rid of a lot of baggage after
Mhm.
that. It was I have just carry-ons moving forward. I don't have the big suitcases anymore.
I love that. I love as a carry-on traveler, I love that
Yeah.
analogy. I don't think I've ever heard it. It is so good. Um, I was at Trainual headquarters yesterday with my forum group, and Chris Ronzu, the founder, was there, and he met with us for a while, and we talked about this, how, like, his success in his first original company, and then he went into consulting, which is how he got into the Trainual world and
Oh,
founded that, and just learning. We were talking about the basics, like, it doesn't matter what business you're in, it
right.
doesn't matter, if it's industry specific, if it's service, if the full gamut. there are business basics and principles that apply across the board. And so really leaning into that, I think in childcare specifically, sometimes we think that we're on a silo, like, okay, well, it's all these things are happening.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
really when you sit back and you surround yourself with other people, you understand that yes, while childcare has its own nuances, in general, the foundation and also the
Correct.
driving what's going to drive our success is all the same business principles, and how
Correct.
it's up to us to adapt and adjust according to our needs and our industry. And so, I mean, I think it's the basics, like you were just talking about, what do you, what got us here? What was our secret sauce, and what do we
Yes.
need to do more of, and then less of, and do more of the
Yes.
less of?
Yes. And I want to quick touch on this because this is huge. I think the childcare industry as a whole operates with their heart, not business principles, which then if we did peel back and remove the heart from it, the heart will fall into place when you have rules and regulations and processes of a well successful company, which then strengthens the leadership, which then strengthens your teachers, because everything's all about clarity, right? To be unclear is unkind. And so for you to have clarity and set these business boundaries and these big foundations, everything will fall into place. But I think our heart centered industry is so worried about rocking anyone's world or upsetting a teacher or, oh my gosh, I can't do that. The family will absolutely hate us. Like, no, this is the business and this is the
Mhm.
policy and this is the procedure and this is how it is. And if that's stated and if it's consistent and followed through, you have a really strong, amazing company. And all the other things will fall into place, right? And so what you just said, it is the foundation and the basics are it. And if we can remember to apply that and run like that, you will be successful no matter what. I mean,
I
you just
can't agree
can't
more.
not.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I think that
huge.
was the biggest thing for me, and at the pivotal point in my journey was I was a first grade teacher, and like
Yeah.
turned all of a sudden I just owned this place and I had my children there. So I had this bias towards working parents and our teachers, because I also felt like I fit into that box. And so I was operating from all these angles and forgetting my primary role was I am the business owner, and I
Mhm.
need to make these high level decisions that maybe in the
Correct.
moment don't feel kind, but that actually is one of our team core values. Clear is kind. Because
Yes.
back to this idea that we're talking about in our industry, their hard conversations are hard. And so people avoid hard conversations, whether that be
Yes.
with colleagues, whether that be in leadership to a mentee, whether that be with a parent, because, they're our client, and all the what ifs. And I started really understanding this concept of, actually, if you want to be a successful teacher, director, whatever it may be, being clear is very kind, because otherwise
Yes.
it's like we're lying in their face. We're just
Right.
avoiding something because we don't have the capacity to talk about the
Correct.
hard things.
Correct. Correct.
I could talk about this for hours. So that was so good. I think that just being an authentic business owner is hard, but
Mhm.
if it was hard, everyone would do it. And so if you're
Right.
in it, if you're listening to this and you are kind of in the world of stuck, I think it's going back to the basics that we were talking about, regardless if you're in childcare or not. And it's remembering, what are the things that got me here, and what are the
Right.
things, just like the book says, right? It whatever got us here won't get us there. And so part of that skill set is, there are ways, and there are coaches and mentors that have helped me, as I'm sure you.
Yes.
How do we have these hard conversations? How do we, because creating policies and procedures is hard enough, and it takes most of us a lot of time and energy or resources. If you're not the one doing it, you got to offload that. Um but then it's holding people accountable to the policy and
Yes.
procedure, and that means
Yes.
you're going to have a hard conversation, maybe, and it
Yes.
just, anyway, it's such a good reminder that
Yeah.
clear is kind. And if you
Yes.
authentically want to see success in your business, is acknowledging that and getting the support when you need it. I had a coach like multiple sessions just on this subject. I'm like, okay, how do they're gonna hate me and they're not gonna,
No.
all the things
Yeah.
we tell, all the stories we tell ourselves. And on the other side of it, I was like, oh, this
Yeah.
is, I can do this. And then I did it
Yeah.
again. And then it got easier and it got easier. And then now I help my people like, okay, let's talk about how we approach these conversations.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Yes.
oh,
Well,
wow.
this has been wonderful.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alita. Any last ideas or thoughts that you want to leave us with?
No, I just think if anybody wants to talk more or wants to visit my website, aletamechtel.com, ALETAMECHTEL.com. And you can find everything you need there if you want to get a hold of me.
Yes, and we will link everything in the description, and I will tag everyone,
Wonderful.
all of your handles and your website. Thank you
Perfect.
again for this time that you spent with us. It really has
Yes.
been great. Like I said, I just love our time and getting to talk about industry and
Thank
not
you.
industry. So it's been
Yes. Thank
great.
you. My pleasure. It's good to catch up.
Likewise. See you next
Thank you, Martha. Take care.
time.
Thank you so much for joining me on another episode. If you're struggling to find your flow in juggling all the things that go into building and scaling your dreams, while also being present for your family and finding time to take care of you, I want to invite you to join my free 21-day challenge, Tame the Chaos. You'll get my tried and true time management workbook designed to help you become a master at organizing and prioritizing how you spend your time. Plus, I'm going to walk you through a daily exercise that will transform chaos into clarity and keep you on track to creating momentum towards your goals. I personally use this method myself, and it is a vital key to my success over the years. Please visit marthapachow.com/tame the chaos to register for the challenge now and get instant access to the workbook. And if you've enjoyed today's tea, make sure to follow, rate, and leave a review. Stay connected with us on social media at The Tea with Martha for updates and behind-the-scenes moments. Remember, every woman's story is a sip of inspiration, and together we're brewing success. This is Martha signing off. Cheers.